Normally, when I do my podcast, it's always normal just about problems, mental health issues. What can we do about, you know, helping with these mental health issues? I don't normally go down pertaining to names. The only one I've done so far that I believe that I put names to was Donald Trump. I think that's the only one I've noticed that I have actually had a whole podcast on any particular person. But today, that's going to change. I was going to read it in the headlines, but I decided to use this breaking mental health, and that is John Wall. So during these times when John Wall was out, he's only has played like 40 games in like 3 years. And a lot of people was trying to figure out why are you getting paid all this money and you're not playing? Well, of course, for one, he was hurt, torn Achilles, and that took a setback to him being recovering. And then on top of that, he suffered family deaths within those within that 3 years. His mother had passed away from cancer, and then his grandmother had passed away. And he actually came on and actually admitted at one point in that time that he actually was considering suicide.
Oh,
Yeah,
I thought he would have considered retirement. Wow.
he
Yeah.
did. Actually, I think he did mention actually consider retirement, but he actually considered suicide.
Not trying to defend or anything, but I can understand why.
No, I mean, and that's the whole purpose of it. It's like there are some things that you have to come to an understanding about, but then there's others that you really gonna have to question. Like, no,
Yeah.
yeah, it just seemed like
Yeah.
you just some people like to use it as a cover up, but
Right.
really don't have their facts straight when they're talking about it with their
Right.
the mental health issues. But this one right here, it sits. It sits. So this is what he had to say about his suicide, considering suicide. Like the darkest place I've ever been in. At one point in time, I thought about committing suicide. I mean, just tearing my Achilles, my mom being sick, my mom passed, and my grandma passed
Yeah.
a year
Yeah.
later. All this in the midst of COVID, and at the same time, me going to chemotherapy, me sitting by my mom taking her last breaths, wearing the same clothes for 3 days straight, laying on the couch beside her. Now, you cannot sit up here and say
Yeah.
none of the facts that you're just saying right now is a bunch of bull. This right here resonates. It
It's real.
sits. It's real.
It's real.
That's real.
It's real.
You
Yeah.
cannot put yourself in a better place to say, oh yeah, I'm considering suicide. He was going through it. And that's
You.
something.
Yeah.
And the
Yeah.
sad part is I heard a saying before that a lot of people take an attempt to actually commit suicide permanently on a temporary problem. I've heard that a lot here. And
Yeah.
I'm not saying that, this is a true statement, but at the same time, with people going through, some of that stuff you're going to have to kind of back up on.
Here's the thing. I when people say that, you have to define what a temporary problem is.
Exactly.
You
Exactly.
can't tell people, oh, this is just a temporary problem. There are some people
Mhm.
that grieves the loss of their parents or loved ones that
Exactly.
is not a temporary problem.
Here's a temporary problem. Okay, so what you said, grieving, family passing, all this stuff, Achilles, stuff like that. Not Achilles. grief and all of that. Yes, that is a more of a eternal problem, like eternity. But a actual temporary problem is what him going to the Achilles tear and rehabbing, and then suffering through depression and anxiety and stuff like those are temporary problems. Having housing problems, financial problems, those type of deals are actually temporary.
Temporary part. Right. Right. Yeah.
So sometimes you have to pick and choose your problems and know what is and what isn't.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so his mother, Frances Poley, she died in December of 2019 at the age of 58. She struggled with breast cancer, and then his grandmother died a year later. So he also continued to say this: "We're all going through times. Nobody's got it easy, but I don't think a lot of people could get through what I went through. And to me, to get back on top of where I want to be is seeing the fans still want me to play. Having the support from my hometown, this important period means a lot. I went to find a therapist. Boom. A lot of people think I don't need help. I can get through it at any time, but you got to be true to yourself and find out what's best for you. What do I always say at the end of my podcast? Until then, stay true to yourself.
Yourself. Mm-hmm.
Stay true to yourself. Say it all the time at the end of my podcast. And that's exactly what he did. He went and found a therapist. He found different problems that could help him with his problem. So yeah, he had a lot of
Yeah.
support too. So that really helped him in that phase. You always got to find that support. You always got to find that support. And then he also said, lastly, you could tell I'm kind of smiling a lot more. All those type of things. I get an opportunity to play with two great players, and the sky's the limit. That's what he said about his suicide attempt, wanting to commit suicide. Never know. There never could be an end to anything. You got a support system, and you do what you got to do. You stay true to yourself. That's all that
Mm-hmm.
matters right there.